Welcome back to the Nobodies Project. This is the final episode of Season 2. This is a podcast where we talk to creatives about creativity, their inspirations, their favorite projects, their least favorite projects, their ruts, where they find time to do their art. In this episode 15, we have Jack Kent. He is most commonly known for his Instagram page, Sketchy People PDX, where he sketches people he sees around Portland, and the Goals comic strip. And he's just a super insightful, fun person to talk to, and I hope you enjoy this episode and the final episode of Season 2. I also apologize for the sound quality. Our sound engineer, Bradley, was not there during this podcast, so I tried my best. Hi there. As you're probably seeing, there's no audio for this podcast because I made a big old mistake and our audio guy, Bradley, was not there to do the audio as well as it has been for the whole season. And I thank Bradley for every episode that he does do, but I was running it myself on this episode, so I apologize. So for the first 8 minutes, I actually double tapped the record button and it did not record the first 8 minutes. You'll see when I realize that, and I will hit the record button and start recording. But during those 8 minutes, here is kind of what we talked about to give you a recap. Jack Kent, he's a cartoonist, but his full-time gig is being a production designer at an agency. He's been doing cartoons nearly his whole life. Sketchy People PDX, which is where I found him, has been going for 6-7 years, and Goals, a comic strip about seagulls, has been going for almost 15. For Finding People, for Sketchy People PDX, it's mostly just having his head on a swivel and being aware of his surroundings. He really enjoys how it's more of a community project now where people will send him sketchy people or describe them, and he loves using that catchphrase, "You could be next." He's done over 1,400 sketches for Sketchy People and would love to take it across the nation one day, doing this in a whole bunch of other cities. We continue talking about Sketchy People as I realized that I double tapped the record button and started properly recording. I really appreciate you sticking with us, and I promise I won't record a podcast without my dear Bradley there ever again. So, thank you.
The DMV is no longer a boring chore to me. The post office is no longer a boring chore because people watching is always there. And just watching people and listening it's the best form of entertainment, I think.
Yeah, the thing that because I do a lot of photography and stuff, and I want to do the celebration of people and
right,
stuff.
You know.
The thing that I'm almost jealous of is that with a camera, you have a big camera, and I take a photo, and people can see what's going on, and I kind of want that more slice of life. Is there a bit of say therapy about convenience of being I just sketch, so I don't have that has anybody saw you sketching and being what are you doing?
No, they haven't. Usually it's I carry around a little sketchbook to jot down caricatures, and then I'll go home and do the full thing later. Because I usually take about an hour per sketch. Okay. So I'll do a little caricature thing, or maybe I'll introduce myself and can I get a photo of you, and this is what I do, and so I usually draw it after I see that.
So there is an interaction. It's not just
not always, but I try to if I can. Yeah, because it's a great way to meet people and to get a story. I was going across the Broadway Bridge, and there was this person that had this amazing bunny ear skull outfit, and we were crossing, and I'm like, I need to find this person. And so I parked the car and I'm running across the bridge, and I'm like, maybe I can just get a little side picture, and I'm like, no, I'm done with being hidden and shy about that, and thinking that taking a picture is I'm gonna go up and introduce myself, and I'm gonna talk to this person, and doing that has been really great, because what you think somebody is or what they're about on the facade, don't judge a book by its cover, couldn't ring more true with this project. And talking to this person, and they had a dog, and just on and on. But I never would have guessed that from what they were wearing, like a skull and bunny ears. And just, I think their name was Dead Bunny was what they went by, and I was just like, this is amazing attire. So I try to introduce myself if time allows.
Dang, that's awesome. I love that it's like way more than just, because you see the sketch and they might have something they say, but it's cool that there's a whole story behind it on some of them.
Yeah, some of them do, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, that's probably one of my favorite projects of yours there. I started diving into even more of it. I know that Goals, the hat you're wearing.
Yeah.
Was that your first, I wouldn't say obviously not your first comic, but your first one that kind of got going a bit?
Yeah, it is. It's the one that started first probably back in 2007, and just grew up on the Oregon coast. Draw what you know.
Yeah.
Goals.
Yeah.
So it's been a really cool ride.
Yeah. How long has that one been going for?
Over 15 years now.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I don't do the comics as much as I used to, just because I got so much going on. But doing a new album for it. And
because you do the music with it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so for anybody that doesn't know, Goals is about a 3-piece squawk and roll band, and they want to be flock stars. Just fill in the puns. They're just there. And I figured about 8 years ago, I go, I need to make music in real life to represent the band in the comic. And so I want to do this kind of crossover, like Gorillaz type of fun stuff of like, you got a visual and you've got a music element to it. So
it's so fun. Yeah.
Renegade.
Yeah. And then where does, even though I know I won't know a lot of, because I've had other illustrators, cartoonists on, and I like to ask like the inspiration where, like, what comics were you like watching or digesting when you were younger that led you to doing this? Like, how did you get started in doing comics, and where does that inspiration come from?
Inspiration. The first movie I ever saw as a kid was Alice in Wonderland. Grew up on Warner Brothers. Bugs Bunny is my idol. Anything like Warner Brothers, I adore. And then going as a product of going through my formative years in the late 80s and 90s, it's cartoon watching of Simpsons and Ren and Stimpy and Beavis and Butthead, and just taking all that in. And then my mom, she's an artist, and she would bring home Edward Gorey and Gary Larson Farside comics, and one year I got Charles Addams, who created the Addams Family, but he did a lot of New Yorker cartoons, and that's Cliff Notes' version of where I got everything started from.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. And then, so that's kind of your past. Going forward, like, is writing, doing comics like that at like maybe a bigger scale, animation, is like, where would you want to take this, like, in terms of, would you just want to be doing cartoons, or like, what's the goal there?
Yeah, I think the goal for my art is to help teach others how to do it, work with groups. I have a fantastic opportunity this summer doing a kids camp through Portland Art Museum at Pam Cut. So I'll be working with kids from 11 to 14 doing storytelling stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so we'll do a week-long program, and we'll just get wacky and silly, putting stories on paper. So I want to work with people. I want to share with them and have them share with me, and just have this amazing group think session, because interactions are just the best way to learn. Even when, if you are the teacher, there's still things to be learned from students, and obviously, but there's just so much great enrichment through collaboration is where I'm going with that. So going forward, I would love to continue doing the art that I'm doing, but also to share it.
Yeah, with the collaboration, I feel like, it's like this with all artists, is that you kind of get in your head and you're siloed out, at least to start, maybe another friend, but finding that community to actually be a little bit more collaborative and start bouncing ideas off people. Mm-hmm. How did you find that community within cartoon, within any of your art?
The best way, some of the best advice I ever got to answer that question is, if you don't ask, it's already a no. And how I've achieved a networking thing going around is rub elbows, ask questions. What is your goal with something, and go for it, and be set up for them or for whatever you want to say yes. For example, if you want to have your comic in a paper or whatever you want, expect the yes, and that's a mind-changing spot to be in. And because if the person goes, that sounds like a great idea, let's do this, be ready to jump on that, and don't be like, oh, I'm surprised you said yes. Well, let me get back to you and like put all my stuff together. Go for it with a glass half full approach. So for me to get that community going, it's just a lot of repetition, and it's a lot of casting your line into the body of water. And the more you cast, the more you're going to get back. It's like action creates reaction. So that for me, that's worked really well to have that steady flow of persistence and just again and try again until you start seeing results, and then you build upon those.
I think that's absolutely huge, especially in any kind of art. It's
anything.
Almost anything you want to do. Like nobody's just going to be like, hey, did you want something? Like, for example, for photography, it's like I was always like, oh, I'd love to like start doing music photography and like doing more stuff like that. It's like, how do I get into that? It's like, well, you just ask bands, you ask venues, and you just will be like, hey, can I come take photos? Can I come take photos? And eventually you'll start saying yes. You kind of have to be, I wouldn't say delusional, but you have to be a little bit like overly optimistic that people are going to say yes, because nobody's going to just hand it to you. And that comes with the community too, because once the community starts getting bigger, then they know like, oh, well, I know that Jack's always willing to help out with this, help out with that, and then it becomes a little bit easier that way to find that community and kind of find those opportunities, because like I said in the very beginning, it's so tough to, nobody hands you really anything.
Yep, very true.
So with all the cartoons that you're doing right now, where do you find time with the full-time job to do it?
It's a dance for sure. You got to look at the happiness level of your craft, and for a lot of people, they're very, very busy and do a lot of projects, and some people just will do projects just to do the projects. They get kind of caught up and get a tunnel vision. I've been there. So you got to kind of learn to dance the give and take. Like, this project's giving me a lot of joy. I feel this one's a chore. I'm struggling with this one, and it's just it's plate spinning, really. It's just keep them all up. This one needs more spinning, type of thing. But again, I think the best way to make a long story boring, to answer that question, is persistent repetition on a very timely schedule. 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. you do this, 11 to 12 you do this. Granted, the full-time job is a huge block of that time, but I get up early and walk the dog at this time. I do my writing at this time. So having those chunks of time, it's like you're not finding time, you've just made time. Because a lot of people go, where do you find the time? Where do you find the time? It's like, I make the time for it, so I don't need to find it. I never need to look for time. It's always there, and I never need to worry about like, I need to create something. It's like, nope, 9 to 10, this is what I do. And that's just really how it, obviously it's not always that easy and not always that structured, but if you approach it with that, it works.
But especially on that, where I found that's usually how I'm the most successful, when I set aside time specifically to do stuff. But having that kind of a little bit of a rigid schedule, how is it going? Like, okay, well, I'm supposed to write, but you're just like not feeling. I mean, obviously, give yourself grace.
Yeah, you have to, because then that happiness level comes in, and you gotta stay happy and optimistic with your art. Otherwise, people go, oh gosh, if you did your art, you could do that for a living, and it's like, well, be careful with that, because that weird like lens flip of like, hey, now I get to do cartoons for a living, and like, oh, that's actually work now. And it's that really weird thing of like, I honestly like having a 9 to 5, because then I can come home and go, this is my passion stuff, and I don't have to abide by any constraint. It's just my glorified hobby. And then it's a dance of how much do you want to work at it, and do you really want to do it for your full time? Because then it's like, now you got to watch, well, if I order this many books at this price point, what do I got to sell for a margin? And then it just gets into that game of like, wow, this is actually not as easy as it sounds. You know, it actually is work. So it's a dance.
Yeah, I always do like to ask, especially people who, because I mean, me and Molly are very similar in this, where we have a 9 to 5 and then we do our passion on the side, kind of similar. If you got paid specifically for your work, do you think it would make your work better, or do you think there would be that added pressure that makes it worse? Because you kind of spoke on it a little bit, where it's less so your passion now, and it would be work.
Right.
Doesn't mean that you're not passionate about the work, but it's still work.
Yeah, there's like, for example, I get a lot of commission requests, and I've done a lot of commissions, and those are very rewarding, and it's very great to work in a collaboration, but there is the added pressure of expectations that somebody else will have. And it's like, it shouldn't be any pressure, because they're coming to you because they like your art. But there's something about the like, okay, here's a dollar amount, this is what I want you to do, and perform. Yeah, and there's a little limit of like, well, can I just like go off to the side and like shoot jump shots, and just practice? And like, no, I want you to like, hit a half-court shot. And it's like, on one take, it's like, oh my God, the pressure. It's like, I love doing those things, but yeah, the per money, per commission thing, it's a different level of commitment and expectation, which can add stress, but it's also rewarding in of it itself.
Yeah, because especially with passions, when they start becoming really rewarding is when you start doing it for yourself. At least in my experience. When you do stuff for yourself, like for your comics, it seems like it's very much for yourself. Other people happen to enjoy it. When you put the commission on top of it, that's when it's like, is this for my, like, it's not for myself, but it blurs those lines.
Yeah.
And it becomes a little tricky that way.
Absolutely.
The fun question I like to ask is, what was the most recent project that you were just stoked on personally, but it just didn't end, like it did not get the reception you wanted?
I don't know if I have a quick answer for that, because the first half of that question is stoked on personally, and for me, that's where I almost have to draw a line and say, that's my objective. Like, I want to be a fan of my stuff first, and then if people receive it well, or if they don't, that's okay. As long as I'm doing it for me, it's a win. But to really answer your question, I don't want to...
Because that's what we all strive to be.
Right.
It's like, what? I don't care about other people at all.
Yeah, it's, there's, level of ego and narcissistic stuff that's natural, lies within us, especially if people are creating, and that's okay. So I would probably say it's, when I do the Goals albums, those are probably the hardest ones to release and hope for everybody just to go, oh my God, this is amazing, without me kind of doing the push.
Yeah.
Just because the sheer amount of time that it takes to do an album, and then let alone if I animate a music video. Like, I did a song, Blubber Blow Up, celebrating the exploding whale in Florence. And I animated the music video, and the music video comes out to like 4 minutes. So that is 6 times 4, 240 seconds. A second of animation is an hour. That takes me, and I do old traditional animation.
Oh,
style.
really? Yeah.
So,
you're doing frame by frame.
Frame by frame.
Oh my
stuff.
gosh.
And so, for me, when I put in the amount of time, and then let alone like, we rehearsed this song, and I have my uncle playing flute on this song. We go into the studio, yada yada yada. You just talk about all the hours it goes in, and the listener, it's not their job to go, how many hours did you put into this song?
Right.
I really need to take it in. So, roundabout way of saying, I'd probably say the hardest one that I'm so excited for is the Goals, the Flocka Rocker band within the Goals comic. Those albums are tough, because I really love them, because I love creating music and singing and writing songs and playing in a band. Those are hard when you have vinyl made and you have music videos, and it's just kind of like, it's kind of a slog to get through, but it's a lot to digest. So I'm not exactly like, there's a lot of stuff to digest. So I can get why it takes people a little bit, like a deer coming to your hand. They'll come, just don't make any big movements, and they'll get there. So for me, I wish it was quicker, because I've lived with these songs for so long, and when I release it, I'm like, okay, huge release of years of work, and then you just want people to gobble it up and go, yeah, and it's like, well, if anybody recommends an album to you, it's like, I'll get around to listening to that, or I'll play a song. It takes dedication and time and patience for an album to be digested by somebody, or any art media for that matter. So, long-winded answer. It's probably the Goals albums that are the ones for me.
Yeah, it's just such, like, I've talked to musicians a bunch, and just the making of an album is so tough in and of itself, that doing it and comic stripping, everything, it's like such a big buy-in. Like, obviously, hopefully, while you're doing it, you're having a great time. I'm sure you are, but it's like, there is a part of you as an artist, like, when you put in that much time, you're like, yeah, I'm having a great time. I just hope somebody else, like, appreciates it as well, as much as I do. But at the end of the day, I'm sure it's still like, if nobody saw it, you're still like, it's pretty fucking cool you made albums.
Yeah, I'm very, very proud of it, and I'm proud of my bandmates on the records. So I definitely, there's no regrets by it. So to like the front end of that, my response of, it's okay if it's not received. Did I have fun doing it?
Exactly. Diving into more of the music stuff, are you doing other music stuff besides the Goals stuff?
No, just Goals is my only musical outlet right now. I used to play in bands, many bands, but I just...
Yeah, I was going to say, how did you get to doing that? It sounds less like you're like, oh, I should make music for it, and then you like learned how to make music for it.
Yeah, it was kind of out of necessity. Playing in bands over the years, I love showmanship, and I love being a showman, but I'm not a front person singer. I'm not a vocalist. Yeah, I can sing, but I'm not like a singer. Like, I'm going to command the stage, and people are going to go, that's a singer. I'm not that person. But I act like I am on stage. And so when I'm giving that performance on stage, and my singer in the band isn't possibly doing my level of show, I'm like, you're kind of dragging us down, maybe. There's things that aren't clicking that I think we could do better. And then I just kind of, maybe I should do my own thing. And then, I don't want to say total control, but in a way, I kind of want to do music for me and to be happy with the players and what we're achieving. So, the Goals project, we just do studio albums. We don't play out. And I just kind of like that. I like being able just to write for the comic, and I feel that's the stage I want to play on, is the cartoon stage.
Yeah, with your cartoons, I'm sure there's some collaboration that's going in there, but is there a sense of control with your projects, your passion projects, where you want to have that control, or is it just like it just happened to be that most of them cartoon-wise is solo?
Probably, that's a good question. I mean, if I say control freak. But if you have a vision, you got a vision, and I still bring in I still jam with a couple of my players, and I think you have a vision in a certain range, and it's like I'm not laser focused on one answer. It's like, just get into this range, and that's cool by me. Because who in the end of the day is going to know, oh, I'm going to play the solo this way, and it's like, well, it kind of came out like this. Like, no, I have to do it this way, and it's like, who's going to know? Like, so I'm not going to get hung up on slowing down momentum if I know the listener or the recipient of the art is going to not know the outcome. It's like the thought is there, so I'm not going to control it to that degree. I have no idea if I answered that question. I totally went off on a tangent. I hope I got in that range I was talking about.
No, it's a tough one, because I think that almost all artists have a little bit of control, that like control freakness. Where it's like if you have a vision, you're doing it for you, you should be in control because you're doing it for you.
Correct.
So inherently there's some control in it.
Right.
But it's kind of one of those words where people are like, I don't want to say I'm a control freak, but I think it's a positive. It can be a positive thing.
Right. I mean, like watching like Bohemian Rhapsody and seeing Freddie Mercury talk about it the best is when I did my solo career, it was the worst because nobody called me out on anything. They just went, yeah, that's great. And the album sucked because everybody was just yes people. And it's like, no, you need to be checks and balances and, shoot for what you want, but also, have people question your moves.
Yeah, that's massive, having people question it.
Yeah.
And getting that feedback. Another question would be, if somebody didn't know any of your work at all, what is the project that you'd want to show them to kind of introduce you to, hey, this is the things I'm passionate about?
Just one piece? Like, here's what I do?
Yeah.
Sketchy People probably doesn't have enough, like one drawing of one person. It might not be. It's weird because it's like it might not be enough, but it might be perfect. It's probably a Sketchy People drawing.
Yeah.
Just that they can digest it in 5 seconds and go, this is what I do.
Yeah.
I wanted to say the music video, but then I go, that's like 4 minutes and a whole song and
Just
squats.
backstory.
I'm just like, that's too much. I'm like, I want you to have a sample with a toothpick, not a 9-course meal. So I'll give you a Sketchy People drawing.
Nice. Have you ever done a sketchy person drawing of yourself?
I did appear on a digital camera screen that my dad was holding. So, sort of, but as the main focus, no.
No? Okay.
It probably will come because I've noticed myself getting kind of sketchy. My wife, she'll go, you're going to draw yourself at some point. I'm like, I know, it's coming. And like, there'll be moments where I'm like, I'll introduce myself to somebody or I'm sprinting down the block. She's the best because it's like, it's a lot of like driving and she'll be talking. I'm like, what the? Slamming on the brakes, turning a U-turn, and like she's getting
She's not even
jostled.
surprised anymore.
And I'm like slamming on the brakes. I'm like, I'll be right back, and I'm sprinting down the blocks and blocks, sprinting and cutting, and then I'm like out of breath, and I'm like talking like, excuse me, I love your look. This is what I do, and then I'm like, the person is looking at me going like, this person is sketchy. And that's me. So I know I will draw myself at some point. I'm sure of it.
Oh, I can't wait for that.
It'll be great. It'll probably that's probably where the project ends.
Yeah,
it's where I just really just shatter the fourth wall and just go, and here I am. It's over.
Oh, I love that. Going with like the other people in your life that kind of understand. Obviously, you're going to get a lot of suggestions from people. Do you pretty much only take stuff that you see, or is it you will take suggestions maybe from your wife or from whoever?
It's usually stuff I see. If somebody describes a moment, I need a photograph to really, or a video if they have it, to really kind of solidify that and go, oh yeah, I see what you're talking about. So I've got people that are quote unquote my regulars that will be like, hey, I saw this, and they'll text me, and I'm like, that's great. And that's what's the fun thing about this project is because it's a collaboration, and if I always go, if you see somebody, shoot me a message where and when you saw them, and I'll be like, that works. Let's do it.
Probably gonna start doing that too.
Yeah, good. Yeah, it's nice. It's the really fun part about this project is people starting to learn to look and to go, oh, people are amazing. Let's start really celebrating why you are awesome, and like, I never thought you would do that, and that was wild. And just those moments in life that you take for granted that actually are what make up life. Yeah.
I couldn't relate to that more. Just like with getting more and more into photography this year, just looking around the city. I mean, everybody, I'm especially just addicted to looking at my phone, and the more I go out and do photos, I'm just looking at the city and looking around and looking at the people and everything like that. Mm-hmm. It really does open your eyes to be like, oh man, especially Portland, we're living in such an interesting area and an interesting time that it's like, if you don't like look around, you miss so much of like the fun that is creating, because there's so much inspiration there. Because just sitting at your desk, sure you can make some stuff, but I get way more inspiration from just going for walks.
Absolutely.
Right, the same
Yep.
there.
Absolutely.
One of the big things we love to talk about on the show is your creative ruts. How often do you get into them? What's your biggest one you've been in? Are you in one right now?
Creative ruts they're a scary thing when you're in one. They're a beautiful thing when you realize that you've been in it before, and it's a weird spot. Like let me explain. It's like, because as long as you keep going, you will get out. Like, shooting jump shots, shooters got to shoot. The only way to shoot out of a slump or get out of a slump is continue shooting. Yeah. So it's like, it's that thing of like, just keep going. I used to run a lot and getting the stitches in the side, and it's like, just keep going. They'll go away. Cramps will go away, type of thing. Like, just work through it. My biggest creative rut, it's like a moon phase. Like, they'll come. I don't know when it was. I couldn't tell you like that was it. They come and go, because that's the growing process. So if you have creative ruts, that means you're progressing, and that's what you want. So, see through the darkness, if you want to call the rut the darkness. I'm a glass half full person, so I try to be anyway. I know it's so easy to say that in a chair in a warehouse and be so optimistic, and not to say that I've never pounded my fists on the table in my own studio out of frustration. That would be a lie. But ruts, they happen, and that's good, because that means you're growing.
Yeah, I've asked that question to almost every one of our guests, and I love that. I haven't heard that before, of like, if you're in a rut, that's a good thing, because that means that you gotta keep going. Like, it's almost a positive, like, oh, that means I'm doing the things.
Right, it's like a callus on your finger, like, a sewing callus. Like, you want that, because, those things that it seems like a detriment, but it's actually a benefit if you can kind of look through it that way.
Yeah. And I mean, you've been doing creative work, cartooning, for a while now. So what would your like advice be to somebody just starting, or yourself just starting? I mean, the obvious one's always like, just keep going, doing it. But is there any other like more specific advice that you'd be like, oh, this is how you kind of get better. This is how you continue to do it.
To get better, to continue to do it. All right, we're going into the camera for this one.
I like it.
This is what you got to do. You need to draw every day. You got to carry a sketchbook around everywhere you go. This is more valuable than your phone. You need to enroll in classes. Surround yourself with people that are better than you, because you will learn more from them. And don't always be on your phone, take things in. I know that sounds like, geez, all right, whatever, Dad. But it's true. It's those moments of like, get out there and take in life. Go to the art museum. That's it. So, sketchbook, draw every day. Enroll in classes with people that are better than you, and go look at art. 3 things. There you go.
Love that.
And we're back.
Love that. Yeah. Wow, that's really good advice for that. So you said the art museum. Is there, and obviously walking around, is there like a specific kind of art that you gravitate towards? Like, is it art that's similar to yours, or is it stuff that's just wildly different?
I gravitate towards mid-century art. So my favorite artists are M.C. Escher, Piet Mondrian, Georgia O'Keeffe. Actually, her architecture phase to get snooty and pinkies out. But she's great. I love order and math with a little bit of organic. So that's my favorite style of art. I love the rigid math in art.
Oh, I like that.
Your second part of that question?
So when you go to look at art and get inspiration, judging by that answer, it's not super similar to what you make. but it shares some similarities.
It does.
Surrealism.
It does. Yeah. I think the past few sketchy people drawings I've done, I'm really paying attention to line degrees and trying to make lines be very uniform. I really like that look, and it's taken probably over 1,000 drawings to kind of get like, oh, I like this like mathematical look to cross hatching or how I shade things. So I would say that's probably the math element of it, but there's a lot of just kind of goofiness to it of the cartooning side. By no means am I a fine artist, definitely a cartoonist, but there's elements of that fine art that seeps in.
Nice. Usually my final question is like, what's the next milestone you're going after? We kind of talked about some of that future stuff.
Yep.
But another question that we'll kind of close out on, unless of course I come up with another one, which I probably will, is has anybody ever requested one of your art to be tattooed on them? I know I see you have a good number of tattoos. Do you have any of your own doodles sketched on you?
I have some of my not like doodles, but designs on me, and I don't think I've had anybody get any of my work tattooed on them. At least that I know about. But it'd be great. It'd be cool. It's I've seen that happen in the art world of like, this is what I do, and hey, this person got my work tattooed on him. It's a very, very cool tribute. But that'd be really awesome. But none of really my own like doodles on me, and none of my art on anybody else.
So no sketchy people, just chilling on your arm.
I mean, I can break this pen and we can get real prison house today. You want some art? Let's go. Molly, you want to jump in? Let's go. We'll get you. You can bite on this cord right here, and we'll just start inking away on you.
Love it. Besides that, is there anything like coming up that people should be looking out for? I know you just came out with Sketchy People, the book. 8?
Number 6 came out in this last year, and let's just segue right on that. So in May, next month is it's already May by this comes out. So this month we are going to do the book release for year 7 at Pinky on Northwest 23rd. So be a lookout for that. That's the kind of the big news. So very excited for that new book to come out, and it'll be a nice little brouhaha up on Northwest 23rd. So keep a lookout. Nice.
Well, we'll make sure to plug all your Instagram and everything like that.
Thank you.
But also like your website to make sure you go get a book and support the artists and everything. Thanks for coming on. It was super fun.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a blast.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yep.